And we're live! Welcome to RockSim Live. I'm Tim Bad Milligan. I'm hiding here behind the computers because they're big. But these computers work good, so that's what I'm using this computer instead of my laptop. I wish I could see you better. I wish you could see me better. Today is, what is today? The 21st of November, 2025. This is episode 216. Thanks for being here. We're here to talk about RockSim Pro, and the launch visualizer. If you have any questions about that, that's what we're here to talk about. So go ahead and put those questions in the chat that's running right now, because I don't have an agenda and nobody's talking in the chat right now. So what do you want to talk about? In the last couple of weeks, I've been visiting my daughter and watching her do diving in Texas. And she's actually diving today. She just finished up at her contest, and it's hosted at SMU in Dallas. My wife is there, so I'm here. And then they go on vacation next week, but we will be here because next week is Thanksgiving, and we won't be open on Thanksgiving, but we will be here on Friday, and I will be here. So if you want, let's do a poll right now. If you're going to be here to watch RockSim Live, go ahead and give me a thumbs up or say, yes, I'll be here, or Tim, I want you to do it, or something like that. So this is about RockSim. And let me share my screen here. And let me actually get a browser up here. There's a browser. Let me go to the Apogee website before I share my screen. There we go. All right, so let's see, computer screen share. Oh, now you can barely see my head. This is the front of the computer right here. It's kind of blocking everything. So sorry about that. I need either to put the camera higher or raise my chair or lower the computers. So I got this default thing here about Chrome. You'll get RockSim at Apogee Components website. Our web address is apogeerockets.com. When you get here, there will be this scrolling banner bar, and one of them is RockSim 11. One of them is RockSim Pro. And we actually have this special offer on RockSim Pro. If you make a purchase at Apogee for $30, you automatically get a free trial for 30 days of RockSim Pro. And here's the best part. If you come back in 30 days and make another purchase for $30, you get another 30 days. So it's kind of like you can extend it out into infinity and just keep getting a free 30-day trial, and he makes it essentially free. Although, you're going to be buying rocket supplies anyway, so we hope you will buy them here. And then you get that free 30-day demo. It's a full trial, so nothing is held back. It's all in there, but you do have to come to our website. If you click on that banner bar, it will explain how to get the free 30-day trial. We also have an offer on a Christmas tree topper. This is going on right now. It started last week. And this offer is you get a free Christmas tree topper. And it kind of looks like that. It's about 11 inches tall. And it's a kit that you put together, and it's made out of cardstock and a body tube that slips over that top branch on the tree trunk. And so you'll get a free topper, and again, you spend $30 and you get it free. Plus, on top of that, you get RockSim Pro for 30 days for free. So that's 2 for 1 deal. You can't beat it. But this one only lasts until December 2nd. So you still got about a week and a half if you want that free tree topper. And we've been running out. So people have been scarfing them up. Normally we do ornaments that hang on the tree. This time it's on top of the tree instead of hanging on the tree. Yeah, so let me take a sip of water. As you can tell, I got a cold. That started on Tuesday of this week. And I'm feeling a lot better. And I have a feeling that this cold is not going to last very long for me. Because yesterday I was really miserable. And today I feel actually pretty great. And my nose doesn't feel as congested. So hopefully by the beginning of next week, it'll all be gone. Hopefully. Crossing my fingers. Yeah, so we have the garlic snapper watching from Red Deer, Alberta in Canada. Wow, I have never seen somebody from Alberta here before. So welcome, garlic snapper. We have Kirill McQuillan, and he says, is there any possible way of simulating active control like air brakes in RockSim? So that's our first question. So we'll answer that one. I also want to say hi to Curtis Howe from Michigan and Ben Burdine. And he says, how'll that all work with RockSim training? That's what we're here for. So ask your question about RockSim training. And if you have a specific question, we'll answer it. So yeah, go ahead and do that. Garlic Snapper says, wondering about the fin flutter calculator in RockSim Pro. I'm getting fin failure results in my HPR rockets that have flown successfully many times in real life, both plywood and regular fins. Okay. And he says, I've been using the industry standards for shear modulus for both materials. Sorry, not sure what is going wrong. All right, so we got 2 questions going on today. So let me go back here. Let me go back to the home page. I just want to show you where you can get RockSim. So again, here's our newsletter. So be sure to sign up for our newsletter. It's really good. This past week we did an article on the Fort Sill Alpha rocket, which was the first plan that I know of that was widely distributed, and it was in a book. It's called the Rocket Manual for Amateurs by Captain Bertrand R. Brindley from the United States Army. This was a time before, rocketry was just in its infancy, and most people didn't know about Estes yet at that time. So they were making their own rockets, and so the Army put out this manual to help people to try to make them safely. And in that manual was this rocket called the Fort Sill Alpha, or it was called the Alpha rocket, but it's from Fort Sill, Oklahoma, at the Army base there. So we call it the Fort Sill Alpha. And so in this newsletter that we just released on Tuesday is the plan. So you can make a 1-to-1 scale model of this and then use modern rocket motors to fly it, which are a lot safer than the sugar motors and the zinc sulfur motors that they used in the 1960s. So that's what you get when you subscribe to our newsletter. Here's a link for RockSim, the launch visualizer. There's RockSim Pro again. If you go to how-to and guides and come down here to software, here's where you can download a free trial of RockSim. You can purchase RockSim. Over here are video tutorials. There's now new RockSim Pro video tutorials. And I just started redoing all of these tutorials. I haven't gotten them all done yet, but I've been updating them. Yeah, so, so if you're just starting out with, if you got that free trial of RockSim Pro, it's very much like RockSim, but it's got a lot more features to it. So I made separate videos to show those extra features that you get. Okay, so let me go to this first question, is there any possible way of simulating active control air brakes in RockSim? So the answer is yes and no. It can be done, but not in RockSim. It's got to be done in RockSim Pro. But there's that free trial of RockSim Pro, so you can do it. So here I've got RockSim Pro open, and I just got a, this is a 13 millimeter diameter FAI style rocket. I was just opening it up to see if everything was working in here. So to set up drag brakes, basically what we're going to do is we're going to use the fins as drag brakes, and we're going to flip them on their side at a certain point in the flight, which is basically when we can define where in the flight we want them to rotate. So what we're going to do, we're going to find the fins in the parts tree. So I'm going to go here, and if you double click on the fins, it will bring it up. And you'll notice at the radial position, if you click on that, you'll notice there's a fin cant angle. So right now our fins are not canted at all. So we have a 0 degree fin cant angle. Let me put this in 3D so you can maybe see this a little bit better. And let me zoom in so we can look at this rocket right here. So right now the fin is at 0 degrees cant angle. And you can take it and you can spin it like this, you know, and at 90 degrees, you know, where, you know, you got a flat surface, you know, that it can kind of be like a drag brake. Let me try to zoom out so we can see it. Let me go here to recenter the camera. So when we rotate around, you can see what it's going to look like. And this is what we want to do at a certain point in the flight. So when the rocket launches, we want them straight up and down. It's 0 degrees cant angle. And then at some point in the flight, we want to flip them to 90 degrees. And so we'll have this little box right here called Enable Cant Angle Changes. And this is going to allow us to make that flip at a certain point in flight. If we don't do that right now, our fins are at minus 90 degrees. So if we launch it like this, let me go ahead and launch it just to show you. Right now it's not enabled, so basically it's going to be fixed at this angle. And so if I go here to prepare for launch, and right now I have an A3-6 motor in here, and you can see the back of the rocket, the fins are flipped all the way to the side. And if we launch it, let's see what happens when we launch it. Let's go to a flight profile. It's going to bring up the launch visualizer. You can see the rocket is sitting on the pad. You can see that our fins are flat. They're not in that good position. So when we launch it, the rocket does take off. And they are flipped out, and it's kind of rotating a little bit. And at this point, the parachute came out. So the parachute is kind of slowing things down. But we can kind of get an idea. I don't know if this is going to work or not, because the rocket is actually going pretty high with those fins flipped out. The question becomes is what is the coefficient of drag with the fins flipped out? And I couldn't tell you. RockSim does not calculate that. So that's why I'm saying it might not work, but we can give it a good try. Okay, so that's what it looked like with the fins flipped out. Now I think this other one right here was with the fins straight up and down. I think I ran that one right before this. We started the show today. So it did slow it down, not as much as I'd hoped. But here's what I would do. So you're going to go back to the fins and go here to the rocket design components, edit the fins. We'll go back to that radial position tab. This time we're going to enable the fin cant angle, and it gives us a little synopsis of what we can do with this. And so we're going to set an initial and final fin cant angle. And then there's going to be a smooth transition between them. And then we can also specify where on the fin the rotation point is, but mostly it's at the midpoint. So we're going to start out with fins at 0 degrees, and then we're going to cant them to 90 degrees. And the cant point right now is at the midpoint, which is 0.975. So our root chord right here is 1.95. So half of that is 0.975. So that's kind of like where they're rotating. All right, so that's okay. So now we're going to launch it again. So now we got to set up when they're going to flip. So under flight events, now when you check that little box, there's going to be this new device called the fins cant. And this is when it's going to cant those fins during the flight. So the parachute is set at maximum ejection delay. And right now the cant change is a time after apogee. Well, that doesn't do us any good. We want it to be before apogee on the way up. So we can say change in altitude after ignition. So let's say, before we hit like 191 feet, let's set it at 75 feet. So altitude after ignition. So at ignition, we're at 0, and then at 75 feet, so they're going to be straight until it gets to 75 feet, and then they're going to rotate. And we want to see what happens when that happens. So I'm not going to change anything. I'm just going to go to a flight profile. Basically, this runs the simulation. So, and I can see the results right here already. So without the fin cant, we're at 220 feet. When they were canted at 90 degrees from liftoff, it was 194 feet. And this time it's 200 feet. So it's kind of like in the middle. So as you can see, the rocket's sitting on the pad right here. And let me zoom. Let me go to this view here. So the rocket's sitting right here in the middle of these crops. And actually, I do want to go back to that other view because I want to watch the rocket. Yeah, so when we launch it, and so when it gets to an altitude of 75 feet, that's when they're going to cant. Okay, so they didn't cant right away, but they did actually cant. The launch visualizer is not going to show you because it can only start with fins at one position. But you can see that it is rotating. And then at some point, the parachute opens up, and now it's coming down. Let me zoom out. Oh, this is weird. It's going sideways. No, it's actually coming down. I'm just looking at it from a weird perspective. Let me zoom all the way out here. So here's our flight trajectory. It went up, got to its peak altitude, came over the top, parachute came out right there, and then it drifted down to the ground. All right, so that's air brakes. It doesn't. What we need to know is how the coefficient of drag changes when those fins cant over. And I actually have no way of knowing. And yeah, I don't know. Okay, so let's go to the other question. Fin flutter. Okay, so the question about fin flutter, and I'll tell you, I don't know if I'm going to be able to answer this question, so I'll shoot you to where you can find additional information. So you're going to go on our website, How To and Guides, come down here to the Peak of Flight newsletter, come over here to all newsletters, and this gives you all 665 of them as of today. And then we want to search on this page for fin flutter. So to search on this page, you do a Control F on your keyboard, or on the Macintosh, it's Command F. And it brings up this little search window up here. And we're going to type in flutter. Okay, so here are the articles, and there's 2 articles in newsletter 615. Actually, there's 3 articles, 615, 617, and 618. And these are what you're going to want to go to, because they're the original articles that we used in RockSim Pro to calculate fin flutter. So this one in 618 is about fins with complex shapes. There's I think it's an Excel spreadsheet that you can use to calculate the fin flutter. So if RockSim Pro is not giving you the numbers that you want, I would say go back to this article specifically, and then do it manually to check your answers. And if it still doesn't give you answers that you don't like, if it's giving you an answer you still don't like, I don't know what to tell you. This is not my expertise. You would have to contact the author of this article right here, John K. Bennett, and then he might be able to provide you additional information on how to solve that issue. So I'll show you in RockSim Pro where the fin flutter analysis is. Again, we're going to go to the fin sheet. Why is it clicking there? This time we're going to turn this off for right now. So this time we want to go to the General tab, and we need to select our material and our thickness, and then right here is the fin flutter speed calculator. So we need to know the maximum altitude of this rocket, and I think we were like 225 feet, so I'm going to say 300 feet. And then you need to know your shear modulus for the material of balsa wood. So what you'll do that is you'll go to Google and you say shear modulus for balsa wood, and it gives you some shear moduluses. So standard balsa is 166 gigapascals, or 24.1 KSI. So I'm going to go here. This one is 33,000 PSI. So here's my units. So I can go KSI, gigapascals, or PSI. So I have to choose one. So I'm going to choose 0.166. And that's got to be in gigapascals. 0.166. And when you hit the tab key, it will calculate the fin flutter speed at 177.41 feet per second. And in miles per hour, that's 120 miles per hour. Then click OK. And so right now, if I look here at my maximum speed, I'm under that 120 miles per hour. So on that last flight, I'm good. So I don't expect fins to flutter on this particular flight. So now you can change things. So if I go here to fins again, change that back, 0.166 gigapascals, 0.166. Okay, so it must, my maximum altitude has changed. Okay, 177 feet per second, 120 miles per hour. Okay, so if I make the semi-span 4 inches and hit tab, notice that the fin flutter speed came down because these long, wide fins like this are more prone to flutter. So flutter is the fins start wobbling back and forth, and as soon as they come at an angle of attack like that, and as they're wobbling, it gets high drag, and at some point the fin is not strong enough to allow it to flex that far, and it's going to snap. And that's why you never want to exceed your fin flutter speed. Yeah, so I think it's a cool feature, and I definitely am not sure why you're not getting numbers that you want to see. So that was the Garlic Snapper, and he was from Red Deer, Alberta, Canada. Let me take another sip of water. Good water. Okay, so next question is from David H-P9Y. No, it's from Ben Burden 9323. And he says, where can you find the snap-on booster motors? Okay, I think it's strap-on booster motors. First, you're going to need a rocket that has strap-on boosters. Save my changes? No. Okay, so I need to find a rocket with strap-on boosters. So if you in the Apogee components folder in your designs, so you're in the design folder, you'll find the design folder in your applications. Inside of that is design, and inside of there is different manufacturers. And under Apogee, the flying machine has strap-on boosters. So I'm going to open that. And it's asking me, do I want to save this last design? And I'm going to say no. Okay, so here is the flying machine rocket. And we look at it in 3D. This is what it looks like. Just waiting for the rendering to complete here. Okay, so basically I got a clear tube so I can see inside. But I got 2 strap-on boosters on the outside. I got one right here and one right here. So once you have your design done, when you go to prepare for launch, you will see there's 3 motor tubes here. So I got my central motor, which is the green one. And then if I click on this one, that's that one. And then this one will be that one. So if you are not seeing these, so if you're wondering where are the strap-on motors, it's because your rocket is not designed for strap-on motors. So you got to go back and fix that first. So let me open up a new design, and we'll make a rocket with strap-on motors, and I'll show you how. It's pretty simple. So I'm just looking for a simple rocket. The Apprentice. Do I save my changes? No. Okay, so here is a simple rocket. It's not so simple. What's going on? Why is this not showing up? Color. Opacity is 0. Okay, and then where are the fins? Color. Okay, I'm just doing this real quick. I'm hopingly, ignore what I'm doing. I'm just making the rocket show up. Okay, so here is my rocket, and I want to add a strap-on booster. So a strap-on booster is a collection of parts. And to start that collection of parts, we've got to click over here and add a pod. But first, where are you going to add a pod? Because you can add a pod almost anywhere. So on this particular rocket, where is the most likely place where the pod is going to be attached to the rocket? Well, the obvious place is this tube right here. So I'm going to highlight that tube. Then I'm going to come over here to the pod, and this starts the process. And so when we add a pod, what it does, it gives us a placeholder and says, this is where the parts are going to be attached along this tube. And you can see, so right now, it's going to be attached up here. And I can change that location just by moving this slider or bar around. So I'm going to start it right there, and I'm going to look at the back view. So my back view shows it in line with one of the fins. So I'm going to rotate it around, I think it's going to be 60 degrees, just right off to the side right here. In fact, I might go to 90 degrees in case I want to do another one on the opposite side. Okay, so if I look at it again from the side view, it's right here. Before it was up here, now it's right here. And it's between these two fins at 60 or 90 degrees. So that's the starting point. So now we got a starting point. Now we need to add parts to that. And you can see our pod is right here. So I'm going to add a nose cone and then a body tube, and that's going to be my pod. So the nose cone, I'll make it an 18 millimeter nose cone. So I'm going to go to my database, and I want to select from the description. Well, let me look at diameter. Diameter. Okay, so Apogee PNC 18D. I'll click OK. So here's my nose cone right now, and if I look at it in 3D, you'll see that it's been attached to the side of the tube right there. I wonder if that's going to be okay. Let me look at it from the base view. Yeah, that works. It doesn't hit that fin, so that works. And if I want to duplicate this on the opposite side, I know it's going to fit, because if it fit here, it'll fit here. All right, so we got a nose cone. Although our nose cone doesn't have a shoulder on it. Recenter the picture, and then rotate. Let's reset the camera and rotate it like this. Okay, so we have the nose cone, and that's fine. Now let's add a tube. So I'm going to select the nose cone and add a body tube. And we need an 18 millimeter body tube, and this one's 2.75 inches long. This one's going to be 18 inches long. Look at it from the side view. You can see it's hanging way out here, so we need to make that shorter. So I'm just going to slide that up to here. And I'm going to say this is a motor mount, because I want to put a motor in there. And I'll click OK. So you can see we got this pod attached to the rocket. And I'm going to save my design. So I'm just going to save as, and I'm going to put it on my desktop so I know where it is. Apogee Apprentice. I'm going to say with pod, if I can spell right, and save it. I just want to be careful, just make sure that I have it saved. So I do have a pod right here. Let me go back to here, and I need to make sure that this pod can be ejected during simulations, because I want it to fall off. I mean, that's like the purpose of a pod, right, is for it to fall off. If we don't select that, it's going to stay attached no matter what. This is just telling RockSim that I'm going to allow it to fall off. And how does it fall off? Well, the rocket motor inside of the pod determines when it's going to fall off. So now we're going to set that up. So we got two motors in this rocket right now. We got the central motor and this outside motor. Let me change this body tube name. I'm going to change it to the pod tube, because I want to be able to tell them apart. Okay, so all I did was just rename that tube to pod tube. I'm going to go prepare for launch. And you can see I've got my two motor mount tubes. I got the main one, which is this one right here. If I can zoom in here, it's this brown one right there. If I click on the other one, it's this one over here. So let's select a motor for these tubes. So I'm going to choose an engine. So this one, I'm in the pod tube. So this is the outside one. So on this one, I want something that's going to burn really short. So I'm going to use an Estes A8-0, and I'll set it hangs out the back 0.375 inches, which is 3/8 of an inch. I'll click OK. So I got my pod tube now, and then my central motor, I want something long burn, and here's the burn time right here. So an Estes C5 burns for just under 2 seconds. And this one controls the parachute. And I'm going to say, I want like 6 seconds. So I'm going to hit 6 and then hit the tab key and then OK. So I got it. This did not take 6 seconds and then hit the tab key. Okay, so in the pod, we have an A80, and in the core, we have a C5-6. And so what I said was under the flight events, that pod, there should be a pod showing up here. On the plastic parachute, deploy at maximum ejection delay. And let me click OK to make sure this pod can be ejected. And then I ejected it. What happened there? Okay, so right now it's showing it as ejected, and there it is when it's not ejected. Okay, I think it's okay. Let's see what happens when we launch. So, okay, so this pod should eject as soon as it burns out. Why is it not showing me a pod? There should be a flight event called pod. Well, we'll see what happens. Our starting state, we're on a 36-inch launch guide, launching straight up. Launch conditions, we're at this field right here, which is Tripoli, Manitowoc. And if we do a flight profile, let's see what it looks like. Let's see if it worked. Okay, so here's my rocket sitting on the pad. And let's launch it. Okay, so at this point in flight, at 1.81 seconds, oh, I lost the rocket. If we spin it around, we'll see that there's no pod attached. So if we back it up, right there. So at 0.2 seconds, we see the pod attached. And then if we go a little bit further into time, the pod falls off. So here's the pod attached at 0.2 seconds. I'm looking down here. See, can you guys see that? At 0.2 seconds. And then if I go just a split second later, at 0.3 seconds, the pod has already fallen off. So it did work. And then the rocket coasted up and came back down. And let me zoom out here. Whoa. This line right here is where the pod fell off. And it's showing that the pod went into the ground. How did that happen? At this point, right there is where the pod fell off. So if I back up, and that should be about 0.2 seconds. Yeah, well, I'm not sure what's going on right there. Something fell off, which I assumed was the pod. But you can see that the rocket, the pod did fall off, which is what we wanted to see. So that is where you find the booster pod motors. Okay. David H. says, thank you for RockSim. I designed and built a 4-inch diameter of the space arc from When the Worlds Collide using RockSim to print all the templates. It flew wonderful on an F-52. Well, that's great to know. I'm glad to hear that. And the Garlic Snapper also says, I'll check out those articles. Thank you so much for making RockSim Pro available. I absolutely love it. Okay, Liam Martin at U2Y says, can you show the Mega Mako? Okay, so the Mega Mako. Let me see if I have it here in my design folder. I do. But you may not. So if you do not have it, come back here to the Apogee website, type in Mega Mako, and then here it is, the Mega Mako. And this is what it looks like. It looks like a long 4-inch diameter rocket. You can see, if I click on here, you can see what it looks like when you launch it, and then exactly how big it is. But on this page, if you scroll down here to RockSim file, right here, click on that, and it jumps you down to the bottom part of the page where the RockSim file is located. And if you click either on the image right here or the free RockSim design file, this is where you will download the actual file. So this kit is so new that it's probably not in your RockSim or RockSim Pro at this point. But once you download it, then you can open it up. So I have this, and I just say open, and it's asking me, do I want to save my pod design? And I'll say no. Okay, so here is the rocket. It needs to re-render here in just a second. Let me take a sip of water. Come on, re-render. There we go. Okay, so there's the Mega Mako, and you can see in the file we've included all the decals for it. So it looks almost identical to this one right here. So that's the before. Here's the after. All right, so right now I don't have any flight simulation, so we can run a flight simulation pretty quick. So go to prepare for launch. This is always how you run your simulations. That little button right up here is your friend. The icon is the base of the rocket with 2 arrows pointing down. So there's a gray arrow and a red arrow, and then a blast deflector. So you are putting it on the launch pad. And that's our prepare for launch button. Then when you first open that up, you'll go to the engine selection tab. And this is up, by default, it opens this one up first. Then come down here to choose engine. And you can choose any engine that you want. And so right now it's looking in the database for engines that match the motor mount diameter. So this is a 54 millimeter rocket. So it's only showing me the 54 millimeter motors. And it doesn't really matter what motor I pick. So if I pick this K828 fast jack propellant, the FJ stands for fast jack. So it's a blackjack that burns faster than the normal blackjack. Then you can select your engine ejection delay. And I always pick the longest one. So that's when you're starting, just pick the longest one because it's always easier to make it shorter than to make it longer. You can make it longer like I did before, where you just type in the number. But these are standard delays. Then click OK. So the engine is loaded. And then we'll go to the flight events. And we'll say when this is a dual deployment rocket. So we have a drogue parachute that's going to be deployed at Apogee, and then the main parachute, let's deploy that at 600 feet, and then hit the tab key. Okay, so our starting state, I want to be on an 8-foot long launch rod, launch rail. And it's going to be launched straight up. Let's give it an angle. So before we were at that Tripoli launch site in Wisconsin. I'm going to launch it like 8 degrees. And then the launch direction, azimuth angle is the direction. So north is 0, east is 90 degrees, south is 180, and west is 270. So I can, anywhere in the compass, I can point the rocket. And I don't remember. So right now we're going to be kind of pointing south and west. So southwest at a degree angle of negative 126 degrees. Simulation controls, just leave that alone. The defaults are good. The launch conditions is our launch site. And right now we're at this launch site, Tripoli. And if you choose a launch site right here, this is where you can pick a number of NAR and Tripoli launch sites. And if you want something different, you need to enter the latitude and the longitude of the launch site, as well as the altitude above sea level and the landing zone above sea level. You could launch from above the ground, which will give you a, then this number altitude is going to be greater than the landing zone altitude. So that's why there's 2 numbers right there. So it allows you to launch above the launch sites. You can actually launch below too, like from underground out of a silo, I guess. Wind table. This says that we have an 8-mile-an-hour wind at ground level. So 0 degrees above sea level, or 0 feet above sea level, and then 12,000 feet above sea level. And I think this particular launch site was about 100, I don't remember, 100 something, less than 200 feet above sea level. I can actually go back right here, 212 feet above sea level. So at sea level, we have 8-mile-an-hour wind coming out of the west, no, out of the north. And at 12,000 feet above sea level, we have 8 miles an hour blowing out of the north. So essentially, we have 8 miles an hour from ground level all the way up to 12,000 feet above sea level, 8 miles an hour. So it's just a constant wind. And if you want variable wind, you can change these. But this is good for us. And then we'll just hit the flight profile, and it will run the simulation and then show us what this launch looks like. So I'm just making this bigger. Come on. Okay, so we're sitting on the launch pad, and let me zoom out a little bit and get the lay of the land. You can see we are angled a little bit. It's not pointed straight up. I think we said we were going to be at 8 degrees, and we wanted to point it to the southwest. And so north is this black arrow right here. So north is up here, and then southwest is kind of pointed this direction. And if we look right, yeah, we are pointed to that southwest direction. And if we zoom out a little bit, that's actually a good direction because we've got the wind coming out of the north. So it's going to be coming from the north, blowing to the south. And we're also launching the rocket this way. So what we would expect is that the rocket's probably going to go this way, or it could weathercock into the wind and go this way. But then as soon as the parachute deploys, it's just going to go straight south. All right, so I'm just going to angle the launch pad. Let me swing this around so we're kind of getting a side view. So we're going to either see it arc into the wind or go away from the wind as it takes off. And so we're launching, and it goes away from the wind. Oh, and it went horizontal there. How did that happen? Something weird went on right there. So now we got to, this is the fun part where we get to examine what might have happened. So look at that trajectory. So it started going that way, and then something happened, and I want to know what happened. So I'm going to back up the time zone here. Okay, at 1 second, it just went unstable. So at 1.4 seconds, it was going okay. And then at 1.6 seconds, it's going in the opposite direction. So what happened? Okay, so we got to figure that out. So we were talking about the fins before. Let's make sure our fins aren't set to do anything weird. So that was under the radial position. And we do not have that adjusted. Interesting. That's set up good. Our shear modulus, we don't have anything, you know, this just calculates a number. So we're not worried that the rocket went too fast because in the simulation, it just assumed that it's plenty strong. Save my changes? No. Okay, so something happened here. This rocket went crazy. So what could have gone wrong? Let's run a different simulation. This time, let's do the starting state going straight up. And when you're going straight up, it doesn't matter which direction you're pointed because you're just going straight up. And let's hit the launch profile again. Okay, I'm going to say, I'm over here. Why is this come over here? Okay, so 53 seconds. That seems rather short. So let's launch. Wow, something happened right at about that same time. That is weird. Let's go look at the, we're going to have to go look at the graphs. So I want to go stability margin. This is time, I don't, distance, altitude above sea level, pitch rate, I'm going to clear that. So let's plot this graph. Okay, so what we're looking at here, the stability margin, I still have throughout the flight, so somewhere around here, the rocket's doing something weird. Why does this? Interesting. Yeah, that looks okay. The pitch rate just goes crazy right there. Why is that happening? Let's go to check this out. Flight events. Deploy at altitude of 600 feet. Let's say there's no event there. And then do the flight profile again. Let's see if something's going on with the main parachute coming out. This is at 37 seconds, so this is even shorter. So at what time in the, we're at an altitude of 1,300 feet. That something hinky happened. I don't know what's going on. I've never seen that before. Let me try a different rocket motor. Let's see if that changes. This is how you do troubleshooting. You just start changing things. So instead of the K822, let's do a J401. Flight events. Let's do no event for both of those. Starting state, it's fixed to the earth, going straight up. My launch conditions look okay. The wind table shouldn't affect it. Let's look at this one. This one crashed. That's because we have no parachutes. Oops, it went too big. Launch, and this one's same thing. Why is it going crazy? Look at it in 2D. The static margin looks okay. Oh, well, wait a minute. It says we got a negative. That's what's going on here. Why is our center of gravity way back here? This rocket should be stable with this J401. Let me remove the rocket motor. Clear all. Click OK. Oh, user specified. I didn't check that. So this tells me user specified that if we come up here to mass override, this has been turned on. So we have a 0 gram mass rocket. And it was trying to run simulations with a rocket that doesn't weigh anything. Okay, so now when we turn it off, see before the center of gravity was up here, now it's back here where it should be. And yeah, so this is how you do troubleshooting. K828, click OK, flight events, deploy at Apogee, deploy an altitude 600 feet, flight profile. This time it should be okay. So our center of gravity is in front of our center of pressure. Yeah. Oh, look, nice and straight the whole way up. 4,400 feet, 5,000 feet. It's still going, still going. And it's going to be in the air another 130 seconds. I'm going to pause it and then just bring it back down to the ground fast. And then I want to look at it from a trajectory view. And yeah, we can see this rocket. This time, with a stable rocket, it actually arced into the wind, went over the top, and then deployed the drogue chute right here. And then the main chute at 600 feet above sea level right there. And then it just landed right there. So it landed just 2,000 feet away. That's still pretty far away. You know, it's almost a half a mile. But it's still within walking distance. So that was the Mega Mako. The Garlic Snapper says, can you take us on a tour of CD Override in RockSim Pro? It's a bit different than RockSim 11. I don't think we got time today, but I'll point you to a newsletter article. Go to How To and Guides, Peak of Flight newsletter, all newsletters. And this one, it's actually in a different spot. It's under, what's it under? I'll tell you. Computational Fluid Dynamics in Rockets. There it is. This one, right? I think it's number 647 by Ken Carbon. Actually, yeah, it's not that one. I think it's the one in front of that. 647, 644. Yeah, in this series, he goes through it because he actually dug into this pretty deep because he needed to be able to change those numbers based on the orientation and the Mach number of the rocket. So maybe if you just start with the first article, and that is number 641 in the Computational Fluid Dynamics of Model Rocketry series. It may be number 1 or number 2 that he goes through it. And I would have to review it myself to actually take you through the step-by-step. Tiny House Homesteads says Land Shark and Launch, and that's Terry Wheelock. David H. says, in RockSim, I adjusted the weight of the rocket to match my 4-inch diameter lock iris, but rerunning the sims did not match my actual. Also, the recommended motors did not update with Flight Sims tab. Let's see if I can do that real quick. So that was the lock iris, 4-inch diameter. Lock iris 4-inch. There's the yank iris. I want to be on the lock web page. I think they have RockSim files here. Yeah, here's a RockSim file, and it just downloaded. And let me see where that downloaded. Okay, so there's my download. So here is RockSim, and basically I just drop it onto RockSim, and I'm going to say no changes here, although I should say yes. Okay, so here's a lock 4-inch iris. And so his mass doesn't match. So right now, I'm just double checking my mass override to see that it's not calculating things. So if this number right here, this 2,443 grams, does not match your real rocket, what you're going to need to do is a mass override. So you'll come to the mass override tab, and then you're going to check the box that says use the value shown below for your simulations. So let's say your rocket weighed 3,000 grams. I don't know. I'm just guessing. And then you'd put that in for the sustainer. And then you also need to know where the center of gravity is. And so I'm going to move my center of gravity. How long is this rocket? 77 inches. Let's make it 40 inches. Hit tab. Put it right there. I think I want it further back. So let's make it 60 inches. Maybe that's too far back. Let's try 55. So 55 inches is where it's measured. So this is physically measuring it. So I stuck it on a scale and weighed it, and I got this number, and then I balanced it from the tip of the nose cone, and I put that number right there. So that's your mass override. So this should now match your real-life rocket. And then it's just a matter of doing the flight simulations. So I'm going to choose an engine, J135, longest delay is 14, engine overhang, I'm going to make it 1/2 inch. Click OK, click flight profile, do that. Let's see what it goes. It looks like it's going okay. Come on, go up a little bit. Okay, so there's the lock iris 4-inch, and it launches, and it looks like it's going straight. It's wobbling a little bit, but not too bad. And it's like coming down sideways. That's a really weird one right there. It went 16,000 feet away, so why did it do that? That's a long way away. So it started here, went way up here, and then landed way there. Why didn't the parachute come out? Nothing deployed, and it's kind of just backsliding and gliding. It's kind of like it shows no parachute. Oops, I don't want that. I wanted this. So something's going on with my parachutes. Parachute, no event. You could deploy it at 600 feet. Oops, 600 feet here. And hit flight profile again. And he had a second part to his question. Also, the recommended motors did not update with Flight Sims tab. Flight Sims tab. I don't know what the Flight Sims tab is. So this one is 148 seconds, 145 seconds. So it's going up, and it's going up good. And still the parachute didn't open. What the heck? Did I run the wrong simulation? Altitude deployment, it was at 600 feet. Oh, I'm waiting for it to get down to 600 feet. That's what's going on. Okay, at 600 feet, here's 685. It's still kind of backsliding. And then under 600 feet, and if I zoom out a little bit, oops, you can see the parachute, and now it's coming down. But this one's still a long way away because it wants to glide. So it was gliding until this point where the parachute came out. It wasn't ballistic enough. It didn't have that center of gravity far enough forward. So his recommended motors, so the recommended motors is right here. And to do recommended motors, and this could take a long time. So you just open up the prepare for launch, then hit recommended motors, and you change your launch guide length. And I'm going to use the recommended conditions, and now it's going to run the simulations. And there's 228 motors, and this is why I said it could take a long time. So I stopped it at 58, and so even at 58, it's going to take a couple of estimated time remaining. It doesn't give me an estimated time, but it's probably going to be a minute. Yeah, so I'm not sure what you mean by it's not. The recommended motors won't update unless you push that recommend motors button to run it again. That's the only time it will update, because every time you run it, it has specific launch conditions like altitude and wind speed and things like that. And so it doesn't automatically update unless you say, hey, here are the new conditions. It says, I can tell you it did not glide. That's good. I did adjust the CG, but ended up with a really high drag value to get the altitude to match. The Iris is basically a tall stick with fins. Yes, I would agree. It's a tall stick with fins. This is a big motor. So this is the largest motor that is in the database. As you can see, when you run the recommended conditions, it will bring you to the recommended tab right here. And so all of these right here, as long as it says recommended, these would motors that would work. And for something like this rocket, I expect everything to work. Although there are some right here, like this I-65W, says not recommended for that one. That's just kind of like a really low thrust motor on a big heavy rocket. Remember, we set this at 3,000 grams, so 3 kilograms. That's pretty heavy. And for that weight, you would not use this motor. But if your rocket weighed less, it might be possible for it to work. Depends on, again, on your launch conditions. So that's kind of how you use recommended motors. The actual maximum altitude. So basically what he's saying is he got a maximum altitude for a motor and it didn't match. So basically what he does have to do is got to go to the coefficient of drag override tab and adjust these values based on these conditions right here. And again, I'll refer you back to those articles that describe coefficient of drag. Maybe next week we can talk about that if people want me to come back next week, or if you're just taking off for Thanksgiving. But that was, I think, all the questions that I had, and we're 10 minutes past the hour, so my throat's getting a little scratchy. But thank you all for being here. It's been a great time. I'm glad I'm back. I missed you guys last week and the week before. It's been like 3 weeks since I've been here. Just kind of using RockSim Pro and RockSim. Yeah. So here I am again behind the computers. Again, we could be back next week. I'll do a schedule on YouTube if we are available to run this program. But then if not, then it would be the first week in December. And I'm not planning on going anywhere the rest of the year. So I'm going to stay in town. We got family coming in for Christmas, so I'm not going anywhere, which is nice. I get to stay home this year. Yay! I've been doing a lot of traveling. Yesterday I was in Chicago. Shh, don't tell anybody because I got family in Chicago. And if they hear that I was in Chicago and I didn't come visit them, they're going to be mad. All right, so I'll give you a countdown and we'll get out of here. So happy Thanksgiving, everybody, for next week. So in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go out and launch something.